Good afternoon. Welcome to the American Soybean Association stage. I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Meghan Grebner, and with us this afternoon, we're going to talk products. The folks with UPL, James, Coday, Kipp Jacobs. Before we get started, though, James, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit and your background with what you do with UPL.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, too, and especially on the ASA booth. You know, they're an extremely important partner to us and what we're doing going forward, so it's really nice to be involved in this. So my name's James Coday. I'm a strategic marketing manager for UPL. So my primary focus is on the corn and soybean market and the products that fall into that for us. So a lot of focus on the Midwest as well as across the U.S. To make sure that we're delivering the right products, listening to the voice of customer, those type of things. So that's how I spend my time.
Kipp, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Kipp Jacobs is a technical services manager for row crops with UPL. Tell me a little bit about your background and what you do for UPL.
Yeah, so like James said, thank you for having us on this stage. ASA continues to be a huge partner and showing the importance of what we try to do with growers, being sure growers continue to be profitable and successful. So as we go forward, like you said, my name is Kipp Jacobs. I'm a technical services manager for our row crop portfolio. What I do primarily is focus on use patterns, rates, structures, and how we can at UPL continue to make growers be more successful with our UPL portfolio.
We have a lot of topics and things to get through today, and I guess the first way, and probably the best way for us to start, James, is talking a little bit about UPL. Tell me about UPL as a company, who you are, and what you do for growers.
Yeah, although UPL may be new to some growers in general, with UPL's the fifth in the top 5 largest global manufacturers. So we have really wide portfolio of active ingredients in the herbicide, insecticide, and fungicide, as well as seed and soil health, and then we're also very focused on the biosolutions as well as we think about the next generation. So we're actually based in King of Prussia, Philadelphia, which is just outside of Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, and then we also have some resources in Cary, North Carolina as well, where we have some global resources as well. So that's where we're located, and got people all across the U.S.
You talked about UPL and the wide portfolio that you have. Talk about that product portfolio a little bit. Do you just focus on one type of control?
No, actually, it's very much from, we like to talk about from pre-plant all the way to post-harvest. So we really have solutions for growers all across the spectrum. And so, whether it's seed and soil health as we get the crop started, all the way through to like post-emergent products like an interline or something along those lines.
When we talk about products and development and that relationship with growers, how do they play a role in product development, and what input do they have?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. Growers are so important, obviously, and that's what we want to get to. So making sure that we're listening to what their needs are helps us build the right products. So we want to make sure that, one of the things that we do have really strong capability in is in formulations. And so we have this access to a number of active ingredients. And so spending the time with growers to understand what their needs are, whether that's weed resistance or resistance that may be coming from a fungicide or disease or insect pressure as well, making sure that we understand what that is so we can work with Kipp and his team and our formulation team to make sure that we're building the right products.
Input is fantastic. As you sit down with growers and you talk to them, how do you take in some of that input and some of that feedback from them? And what have you been doing this week at the show talking with growers?
Yeah, that's really the great thing about being here at Commodity Classic also, is because we got the most progressive farmers. They're coming to the show. So it gives us an opportunity for when they come into our booth to be able to start asking some of those questions. And then again, just like what we were talking about, we try to take that in, we give it to the development team and analyze the results there so we can go build those right products. And we do that in demonstrations also. So it's not just listening in these type of environments, but when Kipp and his team goes out and puts out demonstration trials or does development work, we're having that conversation with growers at the same time to make sure that we're hitting the mark.
Do you hear a lot of pain points and concerns? What are some of those things that you're hearing from growers?
Every year's different, and so I think as we go into this spring, thinking about, are we going to have a better moisture situation? What kind of things does that drive? But ultimately, I think what we hear a lot about is weed resistance management, and so I think that's really what's on growers' minds, and as that continues to evolve, that we're doing the right things to stay ahead of that in conjunction with them.
Let's talk a little bit about grower needs. What trends do you see there? You mentioned weed resistance and controlling weeds. What other things are you hearing from growers?
I think that's really the biggest thing that that maybe we're listening too closely to that, but that's probably the number one thing. Again, the same year in year out environmental conditions to make sure that we're being responsive to that.
Research and development. What do you when we talk about grower input? How do you build on that with your R&D?
Yeah, so again, in Cary, North Carolina, we have an open ag center, which we're doing base level research. And one of the nice things about being a global organization is that we have the resources to be able to really get in and dig in on what those things are. And so we spend a lot of time at our facility in North Carolina looking at those different options.
Can you talk more about that Open Ag Center? It's such a cool concept. What do you do there, and how do growers benefit from what happens there, where the magic happens?
Yeah, so again, it's looking at all types of research trials, doing very early development work in the process, and so that can include anything from what's happening with the active ingredient within the plant to, as we get further down the road on more, is the formulation right? Is it doing the things that we expect it to do?
What sets your R&D apart?
I think for us, one of the things that's really important is the access to the active ingredients that we have. And so we have, this wide portfolio to be able to understand what the needs of the grower are, and then select those right products in there. And so we just have access to more things ultimately.
I would assume Commodity Classic is a great opportunity, like we said, to hear from growers, but also to talk about some of the cool things that you have. Do you have any exciting products coming down the line for the future?
Yeah, for sure. Last year we had the opportunity to launch Preview 2.1, which is a pre-emergent soybean herbicide. We're launching Battalion Amped this year in the booth, which is a cereals-based product. We also have, it's a little bit older, but still continue to talk about it. It's Tapera Plus HD, which is extremely important. It's a pre-plant application or in-furrow application for corn. So really all these different things. And then we do have a lot of things in the pipeline as well that, again, we're trying to build this awareness, get people comfortable with who UPL is. So as we continue to get more products that are coming into the market, we're building some confidence with them.
I would assume you can hear what's happening now and the concerns that growers have now. How do you stay a step ahead in terms of innovation and technology?
Yeah, that's it's hard, but I think the key to it is, of course, paying attention to the grower needs. And then our team is out looking for other ideas, and maybe we're picking up ideas from other regions in the world, too, that we can help and bring into the U.S. and implement as well. So we have a lot of people looking at what to expect down the road.
It's really a great way to set up what we're going to talk to Kipp about as we look ahead to the 2023 growing season, knowing that background to get into these products that growers are using and are working well. Kipp, as we look at the 2023 growing season, every year is different. What did growers face last year? And can you talk a little bit maybe about some UPL success stories?
Yeah, so like you said, every year is different. So just starting off, what happens here and the decisions we make here today impact and pay off at the end of the year. So we want to be sure we're setting ourselves up to be successful from the very beginning. And UPL does a very good job with our full portfolio from beginning of the season all the way through post-harvest products. So several successes last year. Tapera Plus HD continues to show a huge benefit in increasing and having that uniform emergence, especially as we push our planting a little bit earlier. We get that extra root growth, that early season vigor out of that product that really shows a huge benefit in our corn. but also, last year was our primary launch of Preview 2.1 SC. And with that product, the active ingredients in there was a lot of talk around metribuzin and kind of the fear around metribuzin use. With that, we often hear, there's crop response associated with that. So last year, we worked hand in hand with a lot of our growers to put that product out and let them kind of judge what made them comfortable to use that product. And halfway through the year, as we're approaching harvest, frequently the conversations we had with growers was, well, I wish I would have used a little bit more of this product just because it did everything you said and more. And that was probably the biggest success we had last year by far.
It sets us up for a nice transition into talking about plans and what you're hearing from growers as they head into 2023. We're not that far away from planting in most of the country. What are some things that you're hearing from growers?
Yeah, so right now it's happening. So we actually have reports of corn being planted in Illinois. February 8th, it went in the ground. I think there's snow on the ground right now, so it's definitely happening. I'm not suggesting anybody do that by far, but if you are, be sure you're using those in-furrow products to keep that crop healthy. But every year is different. This year continues to show its challenges. We are warming up a little bit faster this year. So just be in contact, look back at your notes from last year, what worked, what didn't work. Reach out to your UPL rep or your local retailer, and be sure we've got that plan put in place to just ensure that success this year.
Is UPL opening new doors to productivity and innovative solutions across the board, as really from pre-plant then to harvest?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the show today, what we're doing is we're setting up that next generation, and what we like to do is focus on those grower pain points. We base a lot of our development strategies around those grower pain points and kind of set up the timeline of when we're going to bring products to market based on those dire or the timeliness of those grower pain points. One of those is Tapera Plus HD. From the very beginning of the season, we want to have that corn come out of the ground as uniform and as fast as possible, and that's what we really set that crop up to be successful from the very beginning. With our the fluoxystrobin active ingredient, the fungicide active ingredient in Tapera Plus HD, we have a superior residual of that product, very highly systemic product that gets that product moved through that plant that continues to show great success, fully into the season. With that, we also get into our foliar products that get into our weed control. From the very beginning, Preview 2.1 is going to be our pre-emergent product. I'm sure we'll get into the resistance management, but it's always a good idea to start out, clean from the very beginning. And then we offer products such as Intermoc, which is our glufosinate and esmetolachlor. So it's a foliar and residual product that allows us to set up that layered residual successful program for growers to keep their fields clean for the whole season.
Herbicide resistance is one of the biggest challenge growers face. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to a farmer in the Delta region, Indiana, Illinois, Western Corn Belt. It's one of the top things I hear all the time. So when we talk about weed control, why is that so important that we start clean and we are managing this and containing it from the very beginning?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure weeds are the gift that keeps on giving. It never really disappears. So with that, as we talk about herbicide resistance and we talk about selection pressure, as those weeds get up, I like to say it's kind of like a newborn baby. So as they get a little bit older, their immune systems start to pick up. So that pre-emergent application is so critical before those defenses and those weeds begin to mature and become more aggressive. So that's where Preview 2.1 was specifically developed to be highly aggressive on the pre-emergent application, because the best weed you can ever have in your field is the one that you control before you ever see it. With that, we go back to basic agronomy of crop interactions, and the old theory of weed free by V3 to be sure there's zero weed competition for your soybeans is where we're truly going to see that yield pay off in the end.
Can you repeat that?
The weed free till V3?
Yes.
Absolutely. So critical weed free period is the idea of that. You want to be weed free until V3. That gets your soybeans off to a good start, and be sure you have the utmost potential for yield at the end.
James, when you hear Kipp's interactions with growers and some of the things that they're talking about and some of the challenges they're facing, how does that come back into what you do in R&D and what you do in the Open Ag Center to provide those grower solutions?
Yeah, I think it's just always informing it, right? It's always we're capturing these different points that are helping build that entire story, and to make sure that we're doing the right things to move forward. And even like, I think, hearing Kipp talk about preview, and it's chemistry that's been around for a while. It's metribuzin and sulfentrazone, but bringing it back to how do we reimagine those active ingredients that's different for the grower, right? So preview has extended residual control, it's liquid, it has superior crop safety, and it's been by listening to customers around what the issue was, we were able to put that into our development plan to make sure that what we end up with is what the grower needs.
It's really just a great story to tell about listening to growers, finding a solution, and then giving it back to them in a way that works for them as well.
For sure, yeah, it's very important.
We talk about, so weed-free until V3. Help us understand why the fight against resistant weeds, pre-emergent herbicides play such an important role in getting there.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the simplest way to explain it is kind of like the immune system of the weed. As we continue to see herbicide resistance be able, continue to amp up and drastically increase in a lot of our primary weed species, amaranth weed species continue to be one of the number one driver weeds. And as we begin to see those weeds really amp up, we begin to see multiple resistant populations. With that, a lot of those are non-target site based or metabolic based resistances in those weed species, particularly in those amaranths in specific. So with that, we went to the universities, and universities continue to show a lot of really extensive data that shows the importance of metribuzin and also sulfentrazone as key active ingredients for resistance management. So with that, we took that data, we brought that internally, and we took two active ingredients that were already on the market, brought them into our development program based on the grower pain points that we were hearing, reformulated that to have an industry-leading 2-to-1 ratio of metribuzin to sulfentrazone, applied pre-emergence, so that way we can provide the most aggressive and uniform weed control from the very beginning of the season before those plants have the ability to take hold and then set up more success in the season.
We talk about pre-emergent. How does that impact us then in the post-emergent herbicides? So
pre-emergent is going to continue to be the most critical. So with that, when I'm looking at data sets, I really focus on two timings. 28 days after your pre or 28 days after you plant your soybeans, and then 42 days after your pre-herbicide goes out. And that's what truly sets up success and differentiates preview from others. So the reason those two timings are so critical is 28 days is when agronomists or weed scientists or us at UPL like to say you should be putting your layered residual application out. So we want to be as successful and have the utmost weed control at 28 days, so when we layer that residual, there's no weeds present. The perfect layered residual is you have that blanket of overlapping residual that keeps the weeds from coming up, because again, the easiest weed to control is the one you never see. So with that, then we look at 42 days, and kind of like weeds, Mother Nature she's always got a different idea for the way the season should go. She always lets it rain right in the middle of the season when your herbicide application should be going out. Generally, in a lot of the Midwest soils, we can factor on about 3 days of drying time for every inch of rain. So if you go out at 28 days and you're expecting to spray your herbicide and you get 3 inches of rain, you could be out of the field for 12 days. So with that, we look at Preview 2.1 and that extended residual where we continue to show superior extended weed control at that 42 days. So that way we have a kind of a safety blanket there for Mother Nature, and we can continue to provide that successful layered application to our customers.
How did growers play a role in their feedback as you guys listen to what they needed into product development? I'm assuming like a product like Preview?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, that grower pain point, arguably the number one that always gets brought up is weeds, herbicide resistance, or just kind of the confusion around product selection. And with that, often amaranth species are going to be brought up across every region, whether it's water hemp in the Midwest, Palmer amaranth as you move south and west, and even red root pigweed. All of those, they're different species, but they react very similarly. And with that was one of the number one weeds that kept being brought up, is those small seeded amaranth species. And then we took that university data based on that feedback that we were getting, where growers continued to battle these weeds and continued to kind of have some uncertainty about what product they need to select. So we took that university data around metribuzin and sulfentrazone, brought it internally, and took that concern or that use pattern and that guessing game out of it. So with that, we brought in Preview 2.1, and we have a truly unique co-crystal formulation in there that takes the guessing game out of it. There's no more lowering rate to be safe on crop or increasing the rate to control your weeds. We take the guessing game out of that, where we can continue to be aggressive on the weeds from the very beginning while being superior, showing superior crop safety on our soybeans as well.
What a great transition to our next topic, which is Preview 2.1 SC. What is the UPL approach to controlling target weeds like pigweed, water hemp, and Palmer amaranth?
So for the risk of being, sounding like a broken record, is
Never.
The easiest way to control is the weed you never see. So pre-emergent applications continue to be a primary focus for weed management, and truly is going to be our number one potential source for combating weed resistance. So we want to be sure we prevent those weeds from coming up. The easiest weed to control, again, is the one that you never see. And then we want to be sure that those weeds don't come out of the ground, most importantly, so they don't produce seed at the end of the year and add back to that weed population the next year.
Kipp, so I have two takeaways so far. Weed-free until V3, and the easiest weed to control
is the weed you never see.
The one you never see.
Exactly.
So for folks taking notes at home, those are the things they should be writing down.
If you can take away any of my messages, those are the two right there.
All right. Preview 2.1 SC, the herbicide that we're talking about. What is the SC, and why is it important?
So SC is truly unique for this product. So as we mentioned, these two active ingredients aren't new active ingredients, but the 2-to-1 ratio of these active ingredients that we developed, we were able to put it in an SC formulation, and with that, it comes into another grower pain point. So when we talk about grower pain point, we can develop active ingredients in a combination that makes sense for weed control. But if it's hard to use and it's difficult to handle, that kind of hinders the adoption of that product. So we were able to put this into an SC formulation, which is a suspension concentrate product, so a liquid product. And with that, we have superior handle, the user friendliness, the handability of that product is superior. And with that, we also have superior storage ability off that and extended shelf life that allows that product to stay in suspension longer and be able to be used more effectively longer throughout the year.
Is that part of what sets Preview apart from others?
Yeah, absolutely. So these two active ingredients, they've been around for a while, and these two have not been put into an SC formulation before. So these two, what it allows is it allows us to not only be user-friendly, have superior shelf life, but also it allows us to open up tank mixability also. So with that, this product was specifically developed for amaranth weeds. We've went above and beyond for what our goal was and have continued to display superior weed control out of this product on those amaranth species. But we also want to be open and honest in our integrated pest management, our integrated weed management, and not every field is uniform water hemp or uniform palmer with nothing else. There might be grasses, there might be large-seeded broadleafs, or there might be just other weeds in general. So what this SC formulation allows us to do, additionally to the things I've said previously, is it allows us to tank mix in those other active ingredients that could fully round out your weed control program.
When we're controlling weeds, we obviously need to be careful with the crop. How does Preview 2.1 SC stack up in terms of crop safety?
So as I mentioned, Preview 2.1 contains a truly unique, one-of-a-kind co-crystal formulation that has not been done before. And what that allows us to do is rather than having separate active ingredients in the jug, we've able to suspend them together. So it takes the variability and the guessing game out of the product. So typically with metribuzin, for instance, as you're your pH of your soil increases, the active ingredient becomes more active. It doesn't bind to soil, so that's where we start to see an increase in our crop response. With Preview 2.1, we're not seeing that. We're stable in our solubility across those pH ranges. And so what that allows us to do is it takes the guessing game out of it. If you have high organic matter, low pH soils where you could typically see more active ingredient binding to your soil, you'll see a lessened duration of weed control. Or if you have a higher pH, you'll still see excellent weed control, but you'll start to see your crop response start to increase as well. With Preview 2.1, we don't have that. We continue to show superior or extended residual control on those heavier soils, and also we continue to show superior crop safety on those higher pH soils as well.
We're at the American Soybean Association stage here at Commodity Classic in Orlando, Florida. Your booth's just a couple of rows over. What are some things that growers are going to find when they stop by and chat?
Well, the first thing is people that are there to listen, right? We really want growers to come, and we've got the team ready to listen to what their pain points are, right? That's why we're here. So I think that's what we'll find. And then also kind of a glimpse into our total portfolio, including our natural product line that's coming as well. And so I think there's the right people there too to answer those questions that especially when you think about the biospace and what's happening there. We have some good folks to kind of help through all the noise that's around that product line.
It sounds like you're really doing a lot of work and listening. Is a lot of listening right. going on. What are you doing with the input that you get back from growers here at Commodity Classic?
Yeah, we'll capture it together and we'll package it up and sit with our development team and with the technical team and figure out how and where that fits and building the next solution. Or helping us, the solutions that we have in process now to make sure that we're on the right path.
So a lot of folks are watching us at home, not necessarily here on the ground
sure.
in Orlando,
yeah.
sunny Orlando, Florida. And we covered a lot of information today. So folks want to find out more information. What's going to be the best way to do so? How do they reach out? Where do they go?
We have a really strong network of distribution and retail partners that we have a really good relationship with. For me, I think that's always the first place that a grower should go. They should go to their trusted advisor, and then we can support them in that way as well. The other way is we love to work on the internet, and so www.upl-ltd.com. It's a great place to find information.
There's a ton of information to find too. Product lineups, contact information, right? All the things that growers need to know.
For sure, yeah. We actually have a rep finder on there as well. So if they want to talk directly to a UPL person, they can find who to talk to there.
James, if you had 30 seconds, a minute to wrap up everything that we covered today, walk me through some of the things you want folks to take away.
Again, and Kipp alluded to this too, right? It's the decisions you make here, the learning, the planning that you do is, really pays off in the end. And so making sure that, I think from a planning perspective that growers are taking the time to look back on what worked, what didn't work last year, and then adding that to their plan for this upcoming year. I think that's extremely important. And obviously, as we've covered over and over again, we're here to listen, right? So I think, UPL, as we continue to increase our awareness, a key piece of that is to make sure that we're listening to the input of our customers. And then again, finally, we have a really wide portfolio of active ingredients, which allows us to do things differently, to think about things differently. And that drives into our whole open ag purpose and concept, which is making sure that we're listening to the entire channel, we're taking that in, and that we're willing to think about things differently.
Kipp?
Yeah, so James, he about nailed it. So as we go into the season, be sure you've got a plan. You look back to what worked last year, what didn't work. And I would say be sure you have a backup plan also. As we've seen the past couple years with supply chain and stuff, sometimes a wrench gets thrown into your original plan, and it's very good to have a backup plan. So be in contact with your local retailer, your UPL rep, get that plan together, and also a plan B. With our portfolio, we continue to have widest array of selection of our portfolio, so that way we can continue to set up success for that program moving forward. And whether it's Plan A, Plan B, be sure you look at Preview 2.1 SC to provide that superior weed control and crop safety for your program in 23.
And again, if folks want to find out more information online, where's the best place for them to go?
General information about UPL and our product portfolio or our personnel, www.upl-ltd.com. And then if you want more information on Preview 2.1, please visit www.previewherbicide.com for more information.
James, Kipp, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and thank you for all of the information.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
I'm Meghan Grebner for Brownfield.